Welcome to my channel. Subscribe and enjoy daily stories about cheating, revenge, and relationship advice. The house was unusually quiet when I walked in, almost too quiet for a Saturday night. Normally, Tina would be in the living room, binge-watching some true crime series or flipping through a magazine. But tonight, something felt off from the moment I opened the door. A faint smell of perfume, something expensive, hung in the air, and the soft sound of jazz floated down the hallway from the living room. My heart beat faster, though I wasn't entirely sure why. "Tina." I called out, my voice echoing a little too loudly. I tossed my keys onto the table by the door and made my way through the hallway. No answer. When I rounded the corner into the living room, I stopped in my tracks. There she was, standing at the top of the stairs, dressed in a black dress that I hadn't seen in years. The kind of dress that hugged her in all the right places, with a plunging neckline that made me think of the nights when we first started dating, when that dress was meant for me. Her hair was done in soft waves, cascading over her shoulders, and her makeup was perfect, more polished than she ever wore on a casual night out. "Tina, what's going on?" I asked, my voice tight. She looked startled to see me, like she hadn't expected me home this early. Her hand gripped the railing for a moment before she quickly composed herself, giving me a small, almost forced smile. "Oh. Bill. I thought you were working late tonight." "Yeah, I finished early." I leaned against the wall, watching her closely. "Where are you going?" She glanced away, fiddling with the strap of her purse, which was slung over her shoulder. "I told you earlier, didn't I? I'm going out to meet a friend for dinner." "Just a casual thing." I felt a pit form in my stomach. "Who's the friend?" Her lips pressed into a thin line, and she let out an exasperated sigh. "Does it matter? I'm just meeting someone from work." "Darren?" Her body stiffened, and her eyes flicked back to mine, a brief flash of panic crossing her face. She tried to hide it, but I saw it. "No. It's not Darren." I chuckled softly, shaking my head. "Right. Because that would be too obvious." "Bill, stop," she said, her voice sharper now. She walked down the stairs, her heels clicking softly against the wooden steps. "It's just a friendly dinner, okay? You don't need to make this into something it's not." "Friendly dinner?" I repeated, the disbelief clear in my tone. "You're wearing that dress for a friendly dinner? Come on, Tina." She crossed her arms over her chest, looking defensive now. "Why are you doing this? You never cared when I went out with friends before. Why are you suddenly acting jealous?" "Because this isn't about friends, is it?" I shot back, taking a step closer to her. "I know about Darren. I've known for a while now." Her eyes widened in shock, and for a moment, she was completely silent. Then she scoffed, but the sound was hollow, like she was trying to laugh off something that wasn't funny. "You're being ridiculous." "Am I?" I asked, my voice low, controlled. "You think I didn't notice? The late nights, the secretive texts, the way you've been looking at me like I'm not even there? You think I don't know what's going on?" Her shoulders sagged, the fight momentarily leaving her. "It's not, it's complicated, Bill." I shook my head, feeling my temper flare. "Complicated? That's what people say when they don't want to admit they've screwed up." She looked away, biting her lower lip. "It's not like that." "Then what is it like, Tina? Explain it to me, because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've been sneaking around behind my back with Darren for months." She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. She just stood there, helpless, her eyes brimming with tears she was trying desperately not to shed. For a brief moment, I felt something twist in my chest, guilt, maybe? Regret? But then I remembered the way she had been looking at him, the way she had been pulling away from me for so long. "Forget it," I muttered, turning on my heel and walking toward the front door. "Bill, where are you going?" Her voice wavered slightly as she called after me. I grabbed my keys from the table, my back still to her. "I have a date." Her footsteps were fast behind me, heels clicking urgently as she followed me into the hallway. "What?" she asked, incredulous. A date? What are you talking about, Angela? I said flatly, pulling open the door. We're going out for drinks, Angela. Are you serious? She sounded more upset than I'd expected, her voice rising with disbelief. This is ridiculous, Bill. You're just doing this to hurt me. I turned to face her, meeting her gaze with a steady look. Yeah. Maybe I am. Tina stared at me, her eyes wide with a mixture of anger and shock, but there was something else there too, fear. It was the first time I'd seen her look afraid, the first time she realized I wasn't going to sit back and take it. You can't just, she started, but I cut her off. I can, I said coldly. And I will. Her expression crumbled, the mask she'd been holding up all night finally slipping. Bill, please. This isn't the way to handle this, no. I opened the door wider, stepping halfway out. Then how should we handle it, Tina? You go on your date, and I'll go on mine. Let's see how it feels. Her voice dropped to a whisper, almost pleading. Don't do this. Not like this. I hesitated, my hand on the door, feeling the weight of her words pressed down on me. But then I remembered Darren, remembered the lies, and the hesitation vanished. Good night, Tina, I said, stepping out into the cool night air. I closed the door behind me, cutting off the sound of her voice as she called my name one last time. The drive to Angela's was a blur. I could barely focus on the road, my mind wandering back through the years to when Tina and I first met. It felt like a lifetime ago, though it had been just over a decade. I pulled into a parking spot outside the bar, but I barely noticed. I was too absorbed in the memories. It was the fall of our junior year at college when Tina walked into my life. I remember it vividly. The campus was bustling with students, and I was sitting on a bench outside the library, trying to juggle a stack of textbooks and notes. She walked past, her laughter cutting through the crisp autumn air, and I found myself watching her with an intensity one hadn't felt before. I was startled when Matt, my roommate and best friend, plopped down beside me. Man, you look like you're in a daze. What's up? Did you see her? I asked, nodding toward Tina, who was walking with a group of friends. Matt glanced over, raising an eyebrow. Oh, you mean the girl in the red scarf? Yeah, she's pretty cute. What's your point? Point is, I said, feeling a little sheepish, I think I'm in trouble. Matt chuckled. Trouble? How's that? I think I'm falling for her, I admitted, shaking my head. And I've never even talked to her. Matt's eyes sparkled with mischief. Well, you know what they say, fortune favors the bold. That evening, I found myself at the campus cafe, nursing a cup of coffee and trying to gather my courage. Tina walked in with a friend, and I saw my chance. I approached her with a mix of anxiety and determination. Hi, I said, my voice slightly shaky. I'm Bill. Mind if I join you? Tina looked up, surprised. Her eyes were a deep brown, warm and welcoming. Sure, why not? The conversation flowed easily, and I found myself mesmerized by her passion for her studies and her laughter that seemed to light up the room. As we talked, it became clear that she was everything I'd hoped for in a partner, smart, driven, and surprisingly down-to-earth. Weeks turned into months, and our relationship blossomed. One crisp winter evening, after a cozy dinner in a dimly lit restaurant, I gathered my courage. We were walking through the snow, her arm entwined with mine, when I took a deep breath. Tina, I began, pausing under the soft glow of a street lamp. I need to tell you something. She looked at me with curiosity, her breath visible in the cold air. What's up? I love you, I said, my heart racing. And I want to spend the rest of my life with you. She stared at me, her eyes wide. Bill, I know this is sudden, I continued, my voice a mix of hope and nervousness. But will you marry me? Tina hesitated, her gaze dropping to the snow beneath her feet. The silence stretched between us, heavy and filled with unspoken doubts. Bill, before she could finish, I could see the conflict in her eyes. You don't have to answer right now. Just, think about it, she nodded, still looking unsure. I will. Over the next few weeks, I felt the weight of her hesitation. There were moments of doubt, and I wondered if she was truly ready for a lifetime commitment. But eventually, she said yes, her voice trembling with a mix of relief and uncertainty. I remember the way she looked at me then, as if she was choosing me because she couldn't imagine losing me. Years passed, and life settled into a routine. We graduated, got jobs, and built a home together. Despite the occasional bumps along the way, I thought we were happy. We had our share of arguments, sure, but I believed in us. But somewhere along the line, things began to change. Tina's interest in Darren had started subtly, a little too casually, but over time, it became clear that something was wrong. Her late nights at work, the guarded conversations, and the way she had begun to withdraw from me, all of it pointed to something I didn't want to see. I parked the car and walked into the bar where Angela was waiting. I spotted her at a table near the back, waving as I approached. Angela was friendly, easy to talk to, and while our conversations were pleasant enough, there was an underlying sense of awkwardness. It wasn't her fault. She was just a convenient distraction. As I sat down across from Angela, I couldn't help but think about Tina's reaction earlier. The pain in her eyes, the way she had tried to justify her actions, it all reminded me of the love we once shared, the way things used to be. I found myself struggling with a mix of anger and longing. Angela noticed my distracted demeanor and gave me a concerned look. "Bill, is everything okay?" I forced a smile, trying to shake off the memories. "Yeah, everything's fine. Just had a long day." Angela nodded, but I could tell she wasn't entirely convinced. "If you ever want to talk about it, I'm here." I appreciated her offer, but the truth was, I wasn't ready to talk about it. Not yet. I wasn't sure if I ever would be. As the night wore on, the laughter and chatter around me became a distant hum. My mind kept returning to those early days with Tina, the joy, the excitement, the promise of a future together. It felt like a lifetime ago, and yet, it was still so close, so real. And the pain of knowing that it was slipping away was almost unbearable. It was an unremarkable Tuesday evening when Matt dropped the bombshell. We were sitting at our usual haunt, a cozy corner booth at the pub, sipping on our beers and talking about work. Matt was mid-sentence, recounting some absurd office drama, when he casually mentioned something that made my stomach drop. "So, Tina and Darren have become pretty tight, huh?" Matt said, taking a swig of his beer. I nearly choked on my drink. "Darren? You mean Darren from Tina's work?" "Yeah," Matt said, nodding. "He's been going out with her a lot lately. My buddy Rick mentioned it, seems like they're always grabbing drinks after hours." "You didn't know?" I felt a cold wave of dread wash over me. "No. I didn't know." Matt's eyes softened with concern. "Are you okay, man? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Just surprised," I managed to say, trying to keep my voice steady. "Tina never mentioned it." "Well, it's been a hot topic around the office. I wouldn't jump to conclusions, but it seems like there's something more going on." I forced a laugh, though it felt hollow. "Yeah, thanks for the heads up." The rest of the night was a blur. I tried to act normal, but my mind was racing. I couldn't shake the image of Tina and Darren together, laughing, sharing secrets. My gut told me something was off, but I had no proof, only a gnawing suspicion. Days passed, and my unease grew. I started paying closer attention to Tina's behavior. The late nights became more frequent, her phone was always nearby, and she was more guarded than ever. It wasn't long before I began to piece together the signs of what had been happening right under my nose. One evening, I decided to follow her. I knew it was wrong, but I needed to know. I told Tina I was working late, and she left for her dinner without a second glance. I followed her discreetly, keeping a safe distance, my heart pounding with each passing block. She pulled into the parking lot of a dimly lit bar, a place I'd never been. I parked across the street, watching as she walked in, her posture relaxed and casual. I waited, trying to steady my breathing. An hour later, my worst fears were confirmed. Darren walked in, and Tina's face lit up when she saw him. They exchanged a warm hug, and then Darren leaned in to kiss her on the cheek. My stomach churned. I watched them for a while, unable to tear my eyes away. They sat close together, sharing drinks and laughter. The intimate way they leaned in toward each other, the way Tina looked at him, it was clear that this wasn't just a casual friendship. When I could bear it no longer, I drove back home, feeling hollow and defeated. I needed to do something, but I wasn't sure what. That night, I called Angela, who had been friendly and somewhat flirty during our last conversation. I needed a distraction, a way to channel the anger and hurt I was feeling. She agreed to meet up, and within days, we were having drinks together. Angela was pleasant company, though our conversations were laced with a bit of awkwardness. It was clear she sensed my emotional turmoil. "Bill," Angela said, her voice gentle as we clinked glasses, "you seem miles away tonight." "What's going on?" I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "Just dealing with some personal stuff." She gave me a sympathetic look. "If you want to talk about it, I'm here." I hesitated, then decided to be honest. "It's about Tina. I found out she's been seeing someone else." Angela's eyes widened with surprise. "I'm so sorry, Bill. That must be incredibly hard." "It is," I admitted. "It feels like everything I thought I knew about us is falling apart." Angela reached across the table, placing a comforting hand on mine. "You deserve to be treated with respect. You're a good person, and you deserve to be with someone who values you." Her words were a small comfort, but they didn't erase the pain I felt. As we continued to talk, the conversations were filled with small distractions and attempts to forget, but the truth was that nothing could erase the reality of Tina's betrayal. That night, as I walked back to my apartment, I felt a pang of guilt for using Angela as a distraction. But part of me knew that I needed to keep moving forward, to try to reclaim some semblance of normalcy, even if it meant confronting painful truths. I decided to confront Tina. I was done being in the dark, done with the deception. I needed answers, and I needed to face the reality of what had been happening behind my back. The drive home was torturous. Every red light seemed to stretch into an eternity, each second dragging my mind through the inevitable confrontation. I had barely touched my food with Angela, my thoughts consumed by the confrontation that awaited me. My hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, knuckles white, as I tried to prepare myself for what I knew was coming. When I finally pulled into the driveway, I saw the dim light of our living room through the window. Tina was home. I took a deep breath and walked up to the front door, trying to steady my nerves. I was ready to face her, to demand the truth that I had been dreading and searching for. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The house was eerily quiet, the only sound being the faint hum of the refrigerator. I walked through the hallway to the living room, where Tina was sitting on the couch, her legs curled up under her. She was dressed casually now, her makeup removed, and she looked like she had been waiting for me. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice calm but failing to hide the edge of anger. "Hi, Bill," she said, her voice soft and wary. "You're home early." I closed the door behind me, crossing my arms as I stood near the entrance. "Yeah, well, I needed to talk to you. About us." Tina's eyes widened slightly, and she shifted uneasily on the couch. "What's this about?" "Cut the crap, Tina," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. "I know about Darren. I know what's been going on." Her face fell, and she looked away, a flush creeping up her cheeks. "Bill, don't," I interrupted, stepping closer. "I saw you with him. I saw you laughing, touching him. Don't try to deny it." She swallowed hard, tears welling up in her eyes. "I didn't mean for it to happen like this. It just did." I took a deep breath, trying to control the surge of emotions threatening to overwhelm me. "How long has this been going on? How long have you been seeing him?" "Just a few months," she admitted, her voice trembling. It started as just friends, but it turned into something more. I didn't plan for it to happen this way. I shook my head in disbelief. You didn't plan for it? And what about the lies, the late nights? How do you explain that? I don't know, she said, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry, Bill. I really am. I was trying to figure things out. I didn't want to hurt you, didn't want to hurt me. I repeated, my voice rising. You're already hurting me. You've been doing it for months. Tina reached out to me, her hands trembling. Bill, please. I know I've made mistakes. I've been selfish, and I regret it. But I still love you. I didn't mean for any of this to get so out of hand. I looked at her, feeling a wave of anger and sadness wash over me. Love? Is this what love looks like? Because if it is, I'm not sure I want it. Don't say that, she pleaded. I know I've messed up, but we can work through this. We can fix it. Please, just give me a chance to make things right. I stepped back, feeling the weight of her words, the truth of them. I wanted to believe her, wanted to think that we could fix what was broken. But the hurt was too fresh, the betrayal too raw. I don't know if I can, I said quietly, shaking my head. I don't know if I can just forget everything and pretend it didn't happen. Tina's face crumpled, her sobs becoming more pronounced. Bill, please don't do this. I love you. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make it right. I looked at her, my heart breaking at the sight of her anguish, but also feeling a deep, gnawing sense of betrayal. I need time, Tina. I need to figure out what I want and what's best for me. I can't just jump back into this without knowing if it's right. She nodded, her shoulders slumping in resignation. I understand. I hope you'll find it in your heart to forgive me. I walked toward the door, my own tears threatening to spill. I don't know what the future holds. I just need to be alone right now. As I opened the door to leave, Tina's voice came from behind me, filled with desperation. Bill, please, don't go. I paused, glancing back one last time. I need to, Tina. I need to figure things out. With that, I stepped out into the cool night air, leaving behind the warmth of the house and the woman I had once loved with all my heart. The weight of the evening's confrontation settled heavily on my shoulders as I walked away, uncertain of what the future would bring but knowing that I needed to face it alone.